जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी। यमुना तीरवनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की, श्री श्री निताय गौरचंद्र भगवान की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Today we are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 11, entitled Lord Krishna's Entrance into Dwarka. Today we are discussing on text 21. bhagavāṁs tatra bandhūnāṁ paurāṇām anuvartinām yathā-vidhi upasaṅgamya sarveṣāṁ mānam ādadhe. bhagavāṁs tatra bandhūnāṁ paurāṇām anuvartinām yathā-vidhi upasaṅgamya sarveṣāṁ mānam ādadhe. bhagavāṁs tatra bandhūnāṁ paurāṇām anuvartinām yathā-vidhi upasaṅgamya sarveṣāṁ mānam ādadhe. Word-to-word meanings. Bhagavan Śrī Kṛṣṇa, the personality of Godhead. Tatra, in that place. Bandhūnāṁ, of the friends. paurāṇām, of the citizens. Anuvartinām, those who approach him to receive and welcome. yathā-vidhi, as it behooves. upasaṅgamya, going nearer. sarveṣāṁ, for each and everyone. mānam, honor and respects. ādadhe, offered. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation: Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, approached them and offered due honor and respect to each and every one of friends, relatives, citizens, and all others who came to receive and welcome him. Purport: the Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, is neither impersonal nor an inert object unable to reciprocate the feelings of his devotees. Here the word yathā-vidhi, or just as it behooves, is significant. He reciprocates just as it behooves with his different types of admirers and devotees. Of course, the pure devotees are of one type only because they have no other object for service. But the Lord, and therefore the Lord also reciprocate with such pure devotees just as it behooves. Namely, he is always attentive to all the matters of his pure devotees. There are others who designate him as impersonal. So the Lord also does not take any personal interest. He satisfies everyone in terms of one's development of spiritual consciousness, and a sample of such reciprocation is exhibited here with different welcomers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauradvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhasya Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna. So before I begin to speak, I would like to seek blessings of all Vaishnavas so that I I speak in parampara and for the glorification of Lord and for my own purification. So today's verse where Lord Krishna is now dealing with the different types of residents in Dwarka. So yesterday Balpadaran Prabhu, he spoke on this verse that where it says that who all had come, expert dramatist, artist, dancers, singers, historians, genealogists, and learned speakers. So all these personalities had come to meet Krishna. And here especially the word which came, Srila Prabhupada also emphasized on that, which says yathā-vidhi, as it behooves. So like Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam is where it says that when Krishna Swadhama Pagate Dharma Jnana Dibhisaha Kalau Nashta Drishamesham Puranarko Adunodita. So Krishna came in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, as Krishna reciprocates personally, the Srimad Bhagavatam also can reciprocate personally. To the degree we approach him, like Srila Prabhupada writes in the first canto, 3rd verse, the very next verse of this Krishna Swadhama Pagate, 44th verse, Srila Prabhupada writes the last line. He says, one of the last lines, he says, one can certainly see directly the presence of Lord Krishna in the pages of Bhagavatam if one has heard it from a self-realized soul, great soul like Shukdev Goswami. And that's what we see from the life of Srila Prabhupada also. Srila Prabhupada said, when I was alone in Jalduta, Chaitanya Charitamrita was my solace, only solace. That means the Krishna can reciprocate even as a Bhagavatam, personally, giving all the rasas. So today's verse especially it is said that Krishna was reciprocating with different personalities. So now when can we say, like very first line Srila Prabhupada is saying that Krishna is neither impersonal and nor an inert object that is not able to reciprocate. So like generally when we say impersonal means which cannot reciprocate. One time one devotee was going by train and he was approached by one person. He said, no, Lord is impersonal. Then he said, if he is impersonal, how can he reciprocate with different living entities? What do you mean by impersonal? He said, can you reciprocate with the light? Can you have an exchange with the light? So similarly, Krishna is not such an object, because we find from the so many lives of devotees and acharyas and now also devotees around us that they find the personal reciprocation with Krishna. So Krishna is not an impersonal, but he is a person. And person means there are exchanges, there are reciprocations, and there are feelings. So in this verse especially, we'll try to discuss that how Krishna reciprocates with each and everyone, because especially Srila Prabhupada writes that Krishna is attentive to all matters of his devotees. And another point Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna satisfies everyone in terms of one's development of spiritual consciousness. So we'll try to see that how Krishna satisfies each and everyone, and how we as dealing with the world, we come across different people, and how we also need to act yathā-vidhi while we are dealing in this world. And especially we'll try to see that what does this yathā-vidhi means amongst the Vaishnavas in the association of devotees. So Krishna is said apta-kama or atma-ram. That means he is self-satisfied. Now if he is self-satisfied, without any reciprocation also he can become satisfied with any living entities. Still he comes in different incarnation and different forms, especially when he comes as a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he has showed that how he can reciprocate with different living entities. So like it is said, Krishna said, Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshosti na priya ye bhajanti tu maam bhaktya maiteteshu chapiham. That I am equal to everyone. But Krishna at the same time, that he satisfies each and every living entity. So we'll see that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going through the South India tour, he came across near Rameshwar and he saw one tree. And there it says that Tabe Prabhu Kaila Sapta Tala Vimochan Setu Bande Snana Rameshwara Darshan. What he did, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there, that as soon as he saw a tree, that name was Saptatal, he delivered immediately that tree by embracing it. So that means he was having feelings towards even the trees. Now when he was walking through the Jharikanda forest, so this section is very nice when I was going through verses. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is walking through forest and this verse says, Ekadina pathe vyagra kariyache snan shayan avesha taragaye prabhura lagila charan. So like when we are walking suppose on the road and if you happens to touch even a cockroach, so it is very difficult. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here it is said one day tiger was lying on the path and Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu walking along the path in ecstatic love touched the tiger with his feet. And then Prabhu kahe katha Krishna vyagra uthila Krishna Krishna kahi vyagra nachite lagila. Lord said chant the holy name and then tiger immediately got up and began to chant the holy name. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went ahead. Prabhu, then he went into the pond, river. There it said, Prabhu jala kritya kare aage hasti aila. Krishna kaha bali Prabhu jala pheli marila. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was bathing in and murmuring Gayatri mantra. Then what happened? The mad elephants approached. They entered inside. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took the water and splashed on the elephant and said, chant holy name. Then what happened? Sai jala bindu kaya lage jara gaye. Sai Krishna Krishna kahe preme nache gaye. So the elephant whose bodies were touched by the water splashed by Lord began to chant Krishna Krishna and he started dancing ecstatically. So and then especially two living entities are said to be like tiger and the deers. They are like non-compatible animals in one sense. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came there, what happened? Hena kale vyagra tatha aila panchasat vyagra mrigi mili chale Mahaprabhu rasat. When Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was passing through the jungle, 5 or 7 tigers came. Joining the deers, the tiger began to follow the Lord. So even they gave up the envy. So what do we learn from this? Actually, what section I am taking is that the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could satisfy even the trees. He could even satisfy the animals having the different tendencies. Now, what happens when he deals with the human beings? Even with the atheist, he dealt in a such a way that he transformed their lives. And we hear many of the like Mayavadis, how he transformed. Yes. And especially Krishna comes in different incarnation. He kills the demon. But what he does, he satisfies them by giving the higher destination. And when he deals with the impersonalist also, like he transformed the heart of Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, where he said that it should be Bhakti Pade, not Mukti Pade, to the degree that he was not even ready to hear the Mukti word. So when he deals with the personalist, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also that Tesham Jnani Nitya Yukta Eka Bhaktir Vishishya. Oh, these Jnanis are highest who can understand me, who knows me in full knowledge. So even to them also Krishna gives such satisfaction. And what to say of Bhaktas, Krishna says, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ye Jana Pariyupasate Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyam. So this is the highest satisfaction given by Krishna to the living entity who takes his shelter and becomes the devotee. That is what Krishna does. Now Krishna is Aptakam and Atmaram. Still he reciprocates in a way that he can satisfy everyone to the fullest extent. Now when the acharyas, they come and they deal in this world, we see that they set some standard because they come to the level of Madhyama. And they set a standard for us that how we deal in this material world. As a sadhaka, we need to deal also in different way. Like if suppose we say, we'll also deal in the same way as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. And if, like Krishna Prabhu once was saying, you may say, oh, he is a soul, and you go and see the tiger and say, Vancha kalpatarubhesya kripa sindubhe vacha. Then what the tiger will say? Mahaprasade govinde. Yes. So you cannot satisfy the tiger with our dealings. We need to, so our respect, our dealing with the tiger is to keep the distance. So similarly, as a soul, we respect everyone in connection through Krishna. We see everyone as a soul, but we respect accordingly. For the tiger, we keep distance. Like Radheshyam Prabhu is saying, for the cow, we take inside the house. For the dog, we keep outside the house because that is the respect shown for that living entity. So now when we are talking to respect, actually this is very difficult to respect each and every one, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in the Vaishnava song that Gurudev Kripa Binduka. So in that song, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Sakale Samman Korite Shakati Dehonath Jata Jata Tabe Dogaibo Harinama Sukhe Aparadya Behata. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, O Lord and Master, please give me the power to protect and properly honor all the living beings. Only then will I sing the holy name in great ecstasy and all my offenses cease. So that means when we know how to deal in the material world, that especially amongst the Vaishnavas also, that there won't be any offenses. Now when we are talking about yathā-vidhi, dealing in this world, like we see that in every living entity in this world, there is a desire to connect. Everyone wants some relationships in this world. And that's what it is said in Shastras, that nature of the soul is anandamayo abhyasat. He is always pleasure seeking. Now, when the living entity's natural state is happiness seeking, pleasure seeking, but what happens when he doesn't know which objects can satisfy, then he tries everywhere. And that's what there are three types of people. Okay, so I'll come to it. So that's why we see there are so many things in the material world. Like previously, when the age of social media entered, there was something called as Orkut. Yes. So people started going on that. Then it evolved into, I don't know what, Facebook, and then now WhatsApp. So many groups people made. Why? Because the living entity wants to connect. And that's what where he finds the satisfaction. He wants to exchange. Otherwise, if the satisfaction would have been in being alone, then every people would have their own things, or they would have been just alone. But no one wants to be alone. They want to have some exchange, and that's what living entity find the satisfaction. So His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj was saying the relationships are very difficult to build and maintain in this age of Kali, unless we come on higher plane. So why we say that when the people in this world are trying to connect and they are not getting satisfaction? Because that connection is on the material platform. They see the post, position, the beauty, the wealth, the fame, and these all are temporary in the material world. And at any point, there is obstruction in all these things, the relationship breaks. But Krishna and everything related to Krishna and the soul concept, these are eternal. And to the degree we connect to living entities on this principle, there won't be any disturbances, or there won't be any breakage in the relationships. So that's what Krishna says that, and Krishna gives example in Bhagavad Gita that those who connect on this principle, what happens to them? Krishna says in 10th chapter 9th verse, Madchitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nitya tushyanti ramanti cha. Krishna says the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me and their lives are fully devoted to my service. And they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. That means that supreme satisfaction can come within even the two living entities when there is a connection with Krishna. So Radhesham Prabhu was giving example that this hand, it cannot satisfy this hand independently. But when this hand goes through the stomach, that means this hand takes and feeds stomachs, then this hand gets the strength. So similarly, living entity individually on material platform, there cannot be the exact satisfaction given between the living entities. So when living entities are there in this world, they try to find this yathā-vidhi, or they find a reciprocation. So there are three kinds of experience a living entity goes through. First is misplaced relationships. What is that? That like people due to selfish desires, they try to establish some relationships in this material world. They try to connect. And what happened? If nothing, there are many obstacles can happen while he is putting like he may try, oh, this will satisfy me, or this person, these objects. But if nothing at the time of death, that object or the person will be taken away. So then he comes to know this was misplaced investment. Then second, when he goes through this, then he becomes unplaced. That means what? He says no relationships at all. And that's how he take out. But what we saw that living entity's nature is to connect. He cannot be satisfied alone. Then he comes to know what is that place where I can be properly situated, and then he comes to in touch with Krishna. And that's what we see from the many of the personality. Like Bhishmadev says, iti mati rupa kalpita vritishna bhagavati satvate pungame vibhumni. That he said, oh, my mati is now fixed. That, and he says that, let me now invest my thinking, feeling and willing, which were so long engaged in different subject and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa. That means, when one comes to know that the rightly placed interactions, yathā-vidhi, is when I connect people on the terms of the eternal principles. Now, Narad Muni, he says that, okay, even if nothing, spiritual principle, if you just follow these things, one thing will happen, that you will not be inflicted by the threefold miseries. That when you know yathā-vidhi, how to deal with the peoples in the material world. What he says that, gunādikānudam lipset anukrosham gunādhamat maitrim samanad anviche natapera bhūyate. So it says every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate towards him. And when he meets someone equal to him, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. So it doesn't mean that the threefold miseries doesn't come to him, but it means that he doesn't get affected by that. Like yesterday we were coming, and I was driving, we were coming, and then the one person started making very huge horns with no reason, because we were just coming, and then I came to know why so much like in anxiety and frustrations. Yes. So basically, when there is unplaced or misplaced connections, then people that comes out in the point of frustration and envy. So similarly, when we know how to deal with the peoples or the personalities, then at least one thing will happen, will not be affected by this. So as spiritual practitioners, sadhakas, when we are in this material world, I would like to especially try to speak more on yathā-vidhi, means amongst the association of devotees, how this principle of yathā-vidhi, or what does it mean exactly. So we know with the non-devotees, we don't take association, rather we try to give Krishna, or if nothing, then we keep the distance, those who are offenders. Those whom we are trying to give this Krishna and knowledge, how do we do it? That we associate in a way that we give the association, rather taking the association. Yes. So preach in a way that understanding Krishna is sitting in their hearts, and we are just the mediator. We are not the supplier, rather we are just the mediator. So, and third thing, when we are dealing with those who are practicing devotees, it is said there are three types of devotees whom we come across. First is those who are seniors, then there are juniors and equals. And I don't know where this is, but we heard that we should spend 20% of our time with seniors, 20% with junior, and maximum time with equals. Why? Because with seniors, we are always humble. With juniors, there is a chances of pride. But equals, they keep us on reality basis. Yes, we may go and preach, give very nice class, and people are after, what a nice class, Prabhuji, you are always clear. But by the time you come to temple, and then he will say, Prabhu, aapka cleanliness area bacha hai. Yes. So they will always keep on reality. Yes. So But at the same time, there are some different relations. Now, when we are dealing with so many devotees, it is not we can have a full satisfying relationship with everyone. Because there are some Haribol interactions, there are close interactions, and there are very intimate. Yes, Haribol means there are some devotees we know each other, but there will be only Hare Krishna, Haribol. Yes, but beyond that, there will be some devotees whom we spend some time. But there are some devotees who always we find the more connection with them, we find the nourishments, and that's what it is said that it should be snigdha and satovar, the closest relationships. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also showed from his dealings that to that degree, like how he also showed and his devotees that what kind of satisfaction these interactions can give us. Like during the Chaturmas, the different devotees would come to Jagannath Puri, and especially the devotees from Bengal. They would look for the Chaturmas period, 4 months to spend in Jagannath Puri, and they would come as if they are permanently shifting. And as the time this Chaturmas is ending, they would feel why this is ending, and they would try to make it stop. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, you have these things to go, all of you should now start back for the West Bengal. So they have such relationships. Then we find from the lives of Srinivas Acharya that these intimate relationships, basically connecting on terms of eternal principles, that what kind of feelings it can take one. Like recently we were hearing that Srinivas Acharya, when he came, he was told, you go to Vrindavan. And he came to know Rup Goswami has left and Sanatan Goswami has left. So first his heart broke. So much so that he went and then he met Jiva Goswami. And he was so much dissatisfied because these personalities are not there. I am not going to get their association. Then Jiva Goswami takes him to each one place of Krishna Lila. And there again, by the time he goes, and he was told that now you go and be with the Gadadhar Pandit. And under him you learn the Bhagavatam. And then he showed the Bhagavatam, and then he was so much satisfying. And from there, Gadadhar Pandit said that you go and meet Narahari. That you get another copy of Bhagavatam, and this copy you keep with him. And that time, Srinivas Acharya was so much like in ecstasy. He said, this is the same Bhagavatam where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gadadhar Pandit, they would converse and they would read from. And he kept this copy, and by the time he went to Śrī Kṛṣṇa, so I was just searching on the maps, like when I was hearing, that from the Vrindavan to Śrī Kṛṣṇa, not Vrindavan, that time he was in Jagannath Puri when he met Gadadhar Pandit. So from Jagannath Puri to Śrī Kṛṣṇa is almost more than 500 kilometers. So while walking it take 4 days. So he reached, and immediately after that he got the copy, he came back. And that time he was told, no, you wait. He said, no, I cannot wait because I want to go and again hear from the Gadadhar Pandit. That he was deriving so much satisfaction that he wanted to come again and derive that same interactions. And then we hear from the 6 Goswamis that how they set the standards of sadhana, seva and the relationships. That they had such an intimate, like Damodar, Radha Damodar temple was the place where they would come and discuss on this. And I'll just go ahead quickly. Then there is a powerful example of, even if apparently they are coming from having the different spiritual master, but they dealt in such a way that they never showed any disagreements. Like there is Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamanand Pandit and Srinivas Acharya. They had such interactions that even to the degree that Narottam Das Thakur, he said, the disciple of Srinivas Acharya, that Ramachandra, that I cannot bear his separation. And that's what he wrote this whole song, Je Anilo Premadhana. And the whole song, it shows so much spiritual emotions coming out, that they had such spiritual attachment because that was giving him same joy when they were connecting with the devotees. So now when we are talking about at our stage, we may not, because we are in the 2 processes happening simultaneously. As a sadhaka, at least for me. One is I am establishing the relationships, and another thing I am purifying the heart. So when these two journey, and especially when we are in the, like as an institution and home simultaneously, so it is very difficult to establish both the balance, because it is said ISKCON is a home and office. So when you try to work in the office with the feelings of home, it needs a lot of maturity and experiences. So that's why those who are to the degree there is no envy, we can have the same feelings what is going on. It is not they were not managing or they were not doing. To the degree actually Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Rup Goswami, and they were actually in so much of management also. Like this whole Shyamanand Pandit, Srinivas Acharya, Narottam Das Thakur, they had a whole project to take the books. So it is not there was no office work. It was there, but they never gave up this principle of having the home relationships. So like one time, one devotee was there, and Maharaj would see him many times, Radhana Swami Maharaj. And Maharaj asked, so I am seeing you practicing since so many years, but how much rounds you are, or why you become a regular member? And he said, no, Maharaj, I want to be like this. He said, why? Because when I become regular, I don't get same affection what I received in the beginning. I want to remain the new one. So that time Maharaj said, oh, it is so much important that we have the yathā-vidhi. That means the kind of love and affection we show for the newcomers, it should also happen amongst the Vaishnavas. So like one time Radhana Swami Maharaj was asked that how do you handle so many projects? How do you handle so nicely so many projects? Maharaj said, I don't handle projects. I handle the people and people handle the projects. Yes. So that means Maharaj said, I put the people before the projects. And that's how then when the people, that means devotees, are so much satisfied, then they can do unlimited best, put their best. Because each and everyone needs encouragement, satisfaction and empowerment. So that's what now within the Vaishnava circle also, when we are emphasizing, now someone may say, why Prabhuji is so much emphasizing on these Vaishnava relationships? Yes, we as a soul, we can directly connect to Krishna and be satisfied. Krishna is happy with the chanting. Yes, and I am also finding satisfaction when I chant. But to chant, we need the association which inspires us. Like it is said, when you want to run short, you run alone. But when you want to run along, you need to run together. So that's what our journey is very long, and it is not going to happen alone. And that's why Vaishnava Sangha is so much needed. Like especially example is given, the birds who are flying in the sky, if you have seen, they go together. And one bird is ahead. But after some time, this bird will go back and another bird will go ahead. Why? Because it is very difficult to face the wind. Those who are in the front, they get lot of wind, and those who are behind, they don't get much obstruction or resistance while flying. But because he is flying for some time, this goes back and he takes some strength back, and another he will lead. And like that, they will cross the countries. That's what you will find. There is a migration period. Some birds are coming from this country. So even they can cross the countries. And now when we are crossing the universe, so we need all the more strength. And that is what we derive from the association of devotees. And when in the association of devotees, there has to be loving relationships. Because Maharaj was saying, I was hearing Maharaj said, loving relationship is very critically impersonal in devotional service. If this is present, all other process of pure devotional service become very easy. And then, like it is said, the Krishna will respond the way you deal with the devotees. So that's why for us, the association, the emphasizing on this principle is very much important. And one time when, like it is said, and we see it is not only we, those who are great souls, they want to come back and be in the association of devotees. When Parikshit Maharaj said, he said, Punascha bhuyat bhagavati anante rati prasangascha tada ashrayeshu mahat suyamyam upayami srishtim maitri astu sarvatra namo dijvebha. That he said, if I get chance, let me again come back in the association of devotees. Now someone may say, why you be with Krishna? Yes, one time I heard somewhere, why devotees choose to be with devotees rather than with Krishna if option is given? They said, if you go with Krishna, there won't be Krishna Katha and Krishna Kirtan. Because if you are with Krishna, why you will do Krishna Kirtan and Krishna Katha? But if you are with the devotees, Someone will chant, someone will share some pastime, someone will do kirtans. So every time there is a glorification and going on, and that's what gives the satisfaction. So that's why devotee always choose to be in the association of devotees. Now, when we are dealing amongst the devotees, we come through different backgrounds and everywhere. One time, Gaurang Prabhu was saying, he said, "So how many of you are from different backgrounds? Someone are from Maharashtra and like this, Maharashtra and Odisha and different states." Maharaj said, "Why we are?" Prabhuji was saying, "Why we are together? Because we have the eternal principle as Krishna, the common principle." And especially Srila Prabhupada gave that. He said, if Srila Prabhupada would not have taken that step to go and give Krishna, there was no option, there was no any reason for us sitting here and hearing Krishna Katha. So that's what Acharyas does, they emphasize on this. Now, how do we deal with the devotees? This is given by Srila Rup Goswami in NOI 4. He says, "Dadati pratigrinati guhyam akhyati prichati bhungte bhojayate chaiva shadvidam priti lakshanam." These are the 6 loving exchanges should happen. But there has to be guhyam, the confidential, and most confidential is Krishna. It has to be common in all the dealings. And to that degree it is common, to that degree the exchanges will become very loving. That means when we give something related to Krishna. When we accept which is connected to Krishna. And when we speak, that is, we speak about Krishna. When we eat, we accept prasad. When we give prasad. So like this, when this principle is there, then it becomes very easy. Yeah. Now, when we are dealing in the association of devotees, actually our experience is based on only few devotees whom we are around us. It is not with everyone. It is said there is a single digit with whom, if there is an interaction, we give it, that is the whole, that means we stamp it as my interaction of with all the devotees. Like it is said we respect all, associate with few and follow one. So when we associate with few, how our interactions are, and that's what define our experience in Krishna consciousness. Like one devotee was saying, and generally this digit is one digit, single digit. It may not be 2, because it is very difficult to satisfy so many living entities simultaneously, the devotees. So one devotee, I was in Ujjain that time, he was saying, because when we are talking about this principle, Acharyas are dealing and they are having yathā-vidhi, giving respect, and among the Vaishnavas, they are to be given the highest respect. And then accordingly we deal. Now when we are among the devotees, we deal that he was saying it is not going to be cakewalk. It is not going to be very easy, because we find some differences and that becomes an obstruction even we know the principle. And then this devotee was sharing that if you can do or if you can tolerate 2 things, you can practice bhakti very nicely. He said, Vaishnaver gali and bhojaner dali. What does it mean? That means if you can tolerate sometimes some chastisement or some correction by the devotees, and second, whatever prasad comes, you says Hari Bol, satisfied. That devotee is saying that if you can do these things, you can be very happily advanced in bhakti. So now when we are dealing that, as I was saying, it is an simultaneous endeavors of purifying and cultivating heart. Then how do our interaction has to be so that it reach to the ultimate level where we find always satisfying relationships amongst the devotees, true friendship, and we connect to Krishna, we become more absorbed in Krishna. There has to be 5 principles which are given by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj when we are dealing among devotees. First thing, Maharaj said there has to be appreciation for the good that is done in the parts. So whatever good is done, we always focus on that rather than seeing any faults. And we appreciate. Second, there has to be encouragement of future potential. Like Srila Prabhupada, he always saw this. He never saw the faults. Even one devotee had left and he came back and he was personal servant. And he apparently he went out of Krishna consciousness. He again came to meet just Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, why don't you travel with me? And why don't you cook again for me? And that devotee was saying, I thought Prabhupada will chastise me. He will say, what is this? You have been so long. So Prabhupada always had this encouragement of future potentials. Third thing is, while we are having this, there will be differences. And Maharaj says we need to learn to respect the differences. Someone may have some opinion or someone may have some different ways, but we respect and then we go ahead. Now, third thing, there will be some things which are intolerable. Yes, one time we were discussing, they are sometimes called as our triggering point. Yes, there will be different triggering points, but we need to learn to tolerate it, unchangeable, because that are the unchangeable in his life. So we just tolerate and we go ahead. And fifth, there will be mistakes. Then one need to learn to forgive and move on with the lives. When these 5 principles are there based on Krishna, then the relationship become very loving, and that's what it becomes. Then we can put yathā-vidhi, the respect to be given to Vaishnavas highest, we will be able to put. And what we need to do, we need to perform the spiritual activity as much as possible in the association of devotees. To that degree, it becomes very potential. That Maharaj this about the family, of course, is like family. Maharaj says na, that we need to do all the activities especially together, chanting, dancing, reading, hearing, serving. And one time Maharaj was saying, you don't know what potency is there honoring prasadam together, but it acts, Maharaj says. So like almost 15 minutes Maharaj spends on that. And that's why when we have, to the degree we are finding such fulfilling relationships among Vaishnavas, then whoever comes in our contact, they become satisfied. Like yesterday we were hearing Jayanand Thakur, that he was so much connected with Krishna that in 1976, that devotees thought there has to be New York Rath Yatra. And Jayanand should go and take the permission. He should go and build the Rath cart and he should lead the whole Rath Yatra. And then Jayanand Thakur was sent there. And he was so much having such relationship, everyone became like, one time it was decided, the Mukunda Maharaj, he said he was temple president newly. And he said Jayanand should become president. And he called all the devotees. He said, I am thinking Jayanand should become temple president because he is only doing everything. He is getting the money, he is running most of the departments. And then that time Maharaj said, like Vyasaki Prabhu was saying, that immediately all the devotees were happy. Because he was having such, he was filled with Krishna and especially this Rath Yatra. So he said, I want some brahmacharis with me, I can build the cart. Jayanand Prabhu said. And Jayanand Prabhu was, for him, the Rath cart, he was seeing as if Jagannath Ji. And he said, I cannot attend morning program in temple, my morning program will be in Rath cart, where I am building. So he rent one road, like he did in the San Francisco. New York he did. And Mangalarti, what he would do, he would worship the Rath cart, whatever was built. He said, this is Jagannath, non-different from Jagannath Ji. And then the devotees were like, there was so much raining, and they saw all, they ran into one shed, and Jayanand was continuing with the Rath cart. And seeing him, all again brahmacharis, devotees joined, and they continued in the heavy rains. And one time, the prasadam did not come, because prasadam would come at that place. And Jayanand Thakur, one devotee came and he said, Jayanand, prasad has not come yet. I am feeling very hungry. So you have something? And Jayanand Thakur, then he went, he leaned over the one wheel. He took one grease of the axle. He said, this is Jagannath Mahaprasad. And he ate it. He said, you want? He said, no, I am okay without prasada. So that devotee was sharing, he was like seeing everything connected to Krishna. That he saw even the grease as Mahaprasad, that he ate it actually in front of that devotee, because he is seeing non-different from Jagannath. He said, this is Jagannath Mahaprasad. So when we have such fulfilled the interaction amongst the devotees, then whoever comes in our touch also, we can do best of yathā-vidhi as Krishna is doing in this verse. So thank you very much. I spoke very, very beyond my realizations, whatever was there, but I just thought, because this is what I need to emphasize on my life, because devotees are the ones who are going to chant Hare Krishna at last in years. I cannot chant myself. They are the ones who are going to make me remind and take to Krishna. So I just thought to share on these points and go deeper in my understanding. So in case I spoke something which was more beyond my realization understanding, so I just try to repeat So thank you very much. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल।